In Lesson 7, we are going to look at representing three-dimensional figures using nets. So just to go through some definitions that we're going to be talking about throughout the lesson, and we'll see some more examples as we go. First off is nets. Nets are two-dimensional figures that can be folded to create a three-dimensional solid. So it's a flat picture of a three-dimensional figure. A prism is a solid geometric figure whose two bases are parallel, identical polygons and whose sides are parallelograms. Again, we'll see some examples as we go through. A pyramid is a solid geometric figure formed by connecting a polygonal base and a point and forming triangular lateral faces. Again, we'll go through some examples, and just to throw in there as a side note, the point is sometimes referred to as the apex. So again, we'll see what these things are as we work through the lesson. Okay, so if you look at example 1, this is a rectangular prism. We've seen these when we've done volume. And some important things to note is that there are 6 faces in a rectangular prism. We've got the front and back, which are the same size and shape. And in this picture right here, this would be considered our front right here, and it has an identical base along the other side in the back. So that is a 5 by 8. If we were to take it off, cut it out, it would look just like this. And the back would look identical. 5 by 8 rectangle. We also have a top, which would be up here, and a bottom, which would be down here. Now if we look, we can see one dimension of that is that 8 from there, and the other dimension is the 3 from here. So the top and the bottom are 3 by 8 rectangles if we were to cut them off and put them separately. The sides, there's always 2 sides. The sides to this one would be a 5 by 3 rectangle, and there are 2 of them, side here and a side here. Okay, so that's what would happen if we were to cut off these figures. And we can use these flat surfaces or two-dimensional figures to create a net. In creating a net, I usually do one typical net for a rectangular prism, and I'm not really too particular about how you're drawing it. You should be able to pick out the different sizes. So one thing that I would say is that you want to put 4 of the rectangles going down a strip, and then you would have your 2 sides coming off the side here. There are many other ways that a rectangular prism can be drawn. This is just one of them. I'll show you a couple others in a minute. But basically the idea is it has to be able to fold along the lines here. So this would kind of come up, and this would come up, and this would be your top right here if you think about it. And then these would flap up as well. So it should be able to fold up into the three-dimensional figure that we see here. So typically, what I do, and I can do this for anything, is just pick a number to run down the middle. Since they're rectangles, they'll all have the same length. And then I would pick another number, so I'm just going to look at this being the back, really, and this would be 5. And then if this is my back, this would be my front, or however I want to look at it. So basically I've run the same number down the middle, and then the 5s would be here, skip 1, and then here. Something that's important to note is that if they were to fold up, this side and this side would match up, meaning this number and this number need to match up. The same goes here. This is the same side length as this, so since this folds up with this, it would also be 5. The other number that we're missing from here is we see the 8 and the 5. We're missing that 3. So this would be the 3 here, and then again a 3 down here. So basically overall, you run the same number down the center. Every other one should be the same number. And then the 2 corners like here would be the same number as well. So that would be a typical rectangular prism net. If I were to fold it all up, it would be that way. And with the numbers, it doesn't necessarily matter which one goes where. Typically, you will see them where they are drawn to scale. Mine aren't always drawn to scale, so that's why the 3 and the 5 kind of look the same. But just remember that the same number goes down the center, on the sides. This number would match this one, so it's every other one. And then this number would match this number every other one, with these matching as well. Some other rectangular prism nets that you may see are shapes like this. These would all fold up to give you a rectangular prism. So just seeing that there are different nets out there. Again, I typically use that first one whenever I'm drawing a net for a rectangular prism. But just the idea that as long as it folds up and would actually create the figure without any extra flaps or any holes in it, that would be the idea behind a net. The next one that we're going to look at is a cube. So the first question that I've asked here is how many faces does a cube have? So if you answered correctly, a cube is very similar to a rectangular prism. It also has 6 faces. It has a front and its matching back, a top and its matching bottom, and then 2 sides. So in that sense, you can draw your your cube net very similarly to the way you did the rectangular prism. I would do 4 down the center. Again, you want to, since it's a cube, you do kind of want to make them all the same size, the best you can. We're not getting out rulers and measuring them. And then for this, since each side length is 4 inches, 4 would run down the center, 4 would also run down each of the sides, and then 4 would also be on the ends here. So that would be a cube net. Now with cubes, since the side lengths are all the same, there are actually 11 possible nets for a cube. So you may not see it looking like this one. It may look a little differently. So this is one of the 11, and then on the next slide here, these are the other 10 that fold up to make a cube without any extra flaps or any holes. So you really kind of have to think it through and see in your mind which ones can fold up to make that cube. Okay, so the next one we are going to look at is a triangular prism. So looking at this one that we have here, it asks how many rectangular faces are there? Don't forget the ones that you can't see. Okay, and then it asks how many triangular faces are there? Okay, so looking at this, what I would probably do is start by drawing in the invisible sides. So here, I would kind of draw something along these lines so I can see, and don't mind my lovely drawing skills here, I can see that there are 3 rectangular faces. This one that we actually see here, plus on the other side there would be a matching one, which is represented kind of right here. And then there's also the bottom, which would also be a rectangular face. So there are 3 rectangles in this. As for triangles, there is the front and the back, which would make 2 triangular faces. So one way that you can draw a net for this triangular prism is to run 3 rectangles down the center and then have your triangles come off of the center. Looking at this, my rectangles are all going to be 6 by 3 rectangles because the bottom is also a 6 by 3, so you really have to look at all of the sides to see what they would be. So 6 by 3. It's also important to note that that base of that triangle is 3, so where you're putting the 3 would matter in this case. We would want it where the base of that triangle hits. And then it's also showing us the height of the triangle is 2, so you would just kind of draw in something along those lines with 2 as the height of the triangle. Okay, another piece that you could draw in is that all 3 sides of this triangle are 3, so you could put 3s along the sides of those triangles as well. And again, notice this side and this side, since they would fold up together, should match, which they do. So that's just one example of a triangular prism for this picture. You can rotate it, you can put the triangles in different spots, as long as it folds up without any overlapping pieces or holes. Okay, the next one is a pyramid. Pyramids are a little different. If you read down at the bottom, it says a pyramid is a solid geometric figure formed by connecting a polygonal base and a point and forming triangular lateral faces. So if you notice, you can see this side is 5 and this side is 5. That means our base here is a square. Okay, so that's what's kind of missing here, and then we have that other point back there that we would draw. So the shape of the base in this case is a square. So this is called a square pyramid. Also notice that the endpoints of the square all come up to form this point, which that's that apex that we were talking about down here. And all of the sides are triangles. So this is that piece here. So now whenever I'm drawing a net for a pyramid, I start by drawing the base. So the base in this case is a square. That's 5 by 5. Then off of each side, I would draw the triangles. Now, if you notice, they're all the same size. They're all 7 as their length. So I would just kind of try to draw the best I can the same length. I know I'm not doing a great job. And each one has sides of 7. So for a pyramid, draw your base and then your triangles coming off of it. Depending upon what your base is, it may have different triangles coming off of it. Okay, so that would be the net for that. Now there's going to be some exercises, so I'm going to allow you a chance to answer some questions. For the first one, you want to match the following nets, and your nets are along your left here, net 1, net 2, and net 3, with the solid that it would match. So you've got A, B, and C. So you want to match the net to the solid. Okay, so the next thing is it's saying there are some nets for some prisms and pyramids. They want you to classify the solids as prisms or pyramids and then identify the shape of the bases. Then write the name of the solid. So there'll be some questions that follow each picture for you to answer. Just a reminder that the prism has 2 of the same shape base. And pyramids always form those triangular sides with the apex meeting at a point, and they just have one base of the same shape. Okay, so today we learned about nets. Tomorrow we are going to do some exercises involving more nets. So if you feel that you fully understand this lesson, wonderful. And if not, make sure that you are asking some good questions when you come to class tomorrow. Have a great night.